our fifth lay leadership training seminar. We are pleased to provide these continuing education and training programs of our Jewish National Fund lay leaders. I want to remind everybody that all the training seminars are recorded, and you can find a library of past sessions in the weekly campaign update that you receive from me every Friday, and you'll be getting one this Friday. If a little bit of a commercial PR thing about the weekly updates or whatever. If you haven't had a chance to look at them, I want to give you just, a little bit of what kind of stuff is in there or whatever. They come out each week. They usually come out on Friday. There's a couple of circumstances where they might come out on a Thursday, or you might get them over the weekend, or because of a holiday, you might not get them. But each weekly update has a lot of information that our lay leaders can find. You'll have the current campaign information, where we are in our campaign on an annual basis and towards our $1 billion goal. And you can also find information about how to register for different events, calendar of events, and missions. And there's also some great updates on projects and programs that are going on in Israel and with our JNF partners. And also there is information in there that we like to present each week with pictures and progress of some of the stuff that's going on, so that you can share them with some of your colleagues and friends and people on your board. So I really encourage you to please open it, read it, and if you have any feedback, please don't hesitate to email me, which is, my email is in the email, and or Rick, or anyone else that you'd like to get some more information about. We really do appreciate it. We appreciate you giving us your time today. And I am pleased to introduce your trainer for today. And I've had a chance to work with her a little bit. Her name is Efrat Gilman, and she's our new Chief Operating Officer at the Jewish National Fund. Efrat joined us about 2 months ago. And to be honest with you, on a personal note, while she was on vacation, she actually was working and visiting a lot of our local offices here in Florida. And she really took the guns running. So I really appreciate that. She's an attorney who practiced law until 2015, when she moved to the Jewish not-for-profit world. First with the 92nd Street Y, where she was the Associate Director of Camp Departments, and most recently with the Laurie Academy of Brooklyn, where she was the Director of Operations. We're pleased to have Efrat as part of our JNF family, and I welcome her. Thank you, Efrat. I just want to remind everybody that before Efrat begins, that we've muted everybody that's on the Zoom call. And you can unmute yourself just by hitting your unmute button on the Zoom call. If you're calling in on a landline or through the audio system, just press star 6 to unmute yourself. And I know that Efrat wants this to be an interactive kind of a discussion or whatever. So please feel free to unmute yourself and ask questions as she goes along with her presentation. We should wrap this up about 12:45. And with that said, Efrat, it's yours.
Thank you very much, Bruce. Thank you very much for the note of vacation. You make working on vacation very easy, as do all of our lay leaders and JNF professionals. So thank you everyone for joining to discuss today's very important topic. I'm going to share my screen. Gary, please let me know that I have done this correctly. How are we doing?
Looks good. Looks good.
Okay, great. So thank you everybody again for joining. We're going to discuss the anatomy of an effective board meeting. Now, before we do anything, before we convene anything, I'd like to remind everyone that everything that we do should be driven by purpose. So I'd like to invite everybody to take a step back for a second and think to yourself, why are you convening a board meeting? Really try and think to yourself, come up with a concrete reason in your mind. Why are you doing a board meeting? Is it because you were told that this is one of your responsibilities? Is it because you have very important information that you'd like to get across? Are you trying to build a strong leadership team? You believe in JNF's mission and you want to build a strong board? Could be any of those reasons. Ultimately, we're trying to get from point A, which is a board meeting, to point B, which is our results, which is the great work that JNF does in Israel. You could, if you take a look here, you've got your board meeting on one side of the screen, which is your very typical dry looking scene. And on your other side of the screen, you'll see a photo taken at the 2019 mega mission with the groundbreaking of the Beersheba River Lake Park, soon to be home to JNF's Israel Education and Technology Center. So right in the middle of those two things, you have the why. Why are we doing what we're doing? Now, for some of you, this may be familiar. Rick did tell me that this is something that he has spoken about and included in his presentations, but because he does it much better than myself, I'd like to offer you a quick video from Simon Sinek's talk in 2009. He gave a TED talk that was called Start with the Why. Had nearly 6 million views in the past 10 years now. And in a concise 18-minute video, he really does get to the heart of explaining that people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. So I'm going to let him do the talking here for us.
Really quickly. Every single person, every single organization on the planet knows what they do 100%. Some know how they do it, whether you call it your differentiating value proposition or your proprietary process or your USP. But very, very few people or organizations know why they do what they do. And by why, I don't mean to make a profit. That's a result. It's always a result. By why, I mean what's your purpose? What's your cause? What's your belief? Why does your organization exist? Well, as a result, the way we think, the way we act, the way we communicate is from the outside in. It's obvious. We go from the clearest thing to the fuzziest thing. But the inspired leaders and the inspired organizations, regardless of their size, regardless of their industry, all think, act, and communicate from the inside out. Let me give you an example. I use Apple because they're easy to understand and everybody gets it. If Apple were like everyone else, a marketing message from them might sound like this. We make great computers. They're beautifully designed, simple to use, and user-friendly. Want to buy one? Meh. And that's how most of us communicate. That's how most marketing is done, that's how most sales is done, and that's how most of us communicate interpersonally. We say what we do, we say how we're different or how we better, and we expect some sort of behavior, a purchase, a vote, something like that. Here's our new law firm. We have the best lawyers with the biggest clients. We have, we always perform for our clients, do business with us. Here's our new car. It gets great gas mileage. It has, leather seats. Buy our car. But it's uninspiring. Here's how Apple actually communicates. Everything we do, we believe in challenging the status quo. We believe in thinking differently. The way we challenge the status quo is by making our products beautifully designed, simple to use, and user-friendly. We just happen to make great computers. Want to buy one?
So Simon Sinek's point here, and I encourage you all, if you haven't seen the video, to watch the rest of it. Simon Sinek's point here is that people believe what you believe, people who believe what you believe and make it their own, take action to satisfy their own beliefs. That's their why. When you talk to their why from your own why, you're accessing their limbic system, which is the part of the brain that controls decision making. It controls feelings, loyalty, trust. So if you've ever had a debate with someone and you've listed all of your rational arguments for why it is that you are proposing what you propose, only to be met with, I don't know, it just doesn't feel right. You're understanding Sinek's point here, that you haven't harnessed the why and you haven't related it on a level to another person that makes sense to their why. So those those who will follow inspiring leaders do so not because they want to, they do it for themselves, because you've accessed this part of them that can't help but follow along. So I want to remind all of us that we really have to start with the why we're doing what we're doing, to make sure that we're harnessing the inspiration that we have here in our work in order to get those around you invested in what we're doing here. So think back again to why you're convening your board meeting. It could be for any of those rational reasons that we listed. Communication, that's your job description. But your belief in JNF's work is what will inspire your boards and your committees to want to follow along with you, and not losing sight of that will really guarantee you successful and efficient board meetings. So everybody is familiar with the Jewish National Fund's mission statement and longstanding projects that JNF has been a part of. And as a new employee here at JNF, it's quickly become apparent that you could spend a time equivalent to earning a BA in all of JNF's works and projects and all the wonderful things that we do here, from a food innovation technology center in the Upper Eastern Galilee to a $250 million Israel Education and Technology Center in Beersheba Park. But each of you has your own link to JNF and what makes it special to you, and where you derive your inspiration from, and why you're involved with JNF above anybody else. You know, JNF as a historic institution in global philanthropy has been incredible in reimagining itself and making itself wildly relevant in the present to build a strong Israel and to connect Jewish people everywhere to the state of Israel. So find your inspiration, go back to your roots, find your inspiration, and to sharpen your why. So once we have our why sharpened, let's get to the how. How do we accomplish our goals of building a strong Israel, connecting Jewish people to the state of Israel? We do this by having dedicated lay leadership across the nation who turn their passions into shared action by leading communities to achieve fundraising goals, with board meetings to help us keep on track. So you've got your why, your how, and your what. You've got your why, you'll find your inspiration. Our how is our board meeting, our community building, our lay leaderships, and what is our fundraising to make sure that we continue to do the great work that we do in Israel. So forgive me my long introduction. I know that we're here to talk about board meetings, and I sort of started us off on a little bit of a roundabout there. But it is well established that the most memorable moments of a gathering are the beginning, the end, and the peak of your meetings. So I take this advice from a woman named Priya Parker, who wrote the book The Art of Gathering. She's a career facilitator and author. She reminds us to never start or end any of your meetings with logistics. You could squander away some of your best meeting moments. So that is a little bit something to take with you. So we're going to talk about the logistics of creating your effective board meeting. The first thing, a very dry piece of this, is scheduling. So when you begin your term, when you begin your tenure, you must schedule the remainder of your board meetings in advance. I cannot stress this enough. I don't know that everyone has already done this. It's never too late to do it. If you haven't finished scheduling the rest of your board meetings, take some time to set them up in advance. Consistency and predictability are going to guide you through your board meetings and will continue to increase your efficacy and your efficiency of board meetings and success of your board meetings. It also tells your members that meetings are not at the whim of board members. It's not at the whim of the president or of the JNF professional, that these are things that we are committed to and we are scheduling around. We're giving it a level of importance by doing that ahead of time. Again, if you haven't done this, you still have an opportunity to do so. So once you determine this in your calendar, share it with the rest of your group, with your JNF professional. Unfortunately, scheduling so much in advance will not obviate you and relieve you of your obligation to send out meeting reminders. I would recommend minimally 1 week in advance of your meeting. So your invitation to your meeting, I want to remind everybody that the moment that you are inviting people to anything, whether it's your Shabbat dinner table or your board meeting, you are inviting people and you are setting the tone for everything that's going to happen from there on out. You're hosting your members from the moment that they receive this invitation reminder. So you're setting the tone, you're setting the ground rules, the expectations, the professionalism of your meeting. So I'd like to encourage everyone, when you do send out your meeting reminder, to send out a preliminary agenda. Sending out a preliminary agenda is going to help focus your meeting from the outset. People can count on what is to come, more content on what's in your agenda in a little bit. But I also want to stress that this is an excellent opportunity to solicit feedback from your members, should they have any items that they want addressed, so that you can add this on before your actual meeting. This is also a good opportunity to check in with all of your members to see if they're prepared. Anyone who is presenting, the name here in the parentheticals, you can see these are my presenters. So you can check in with them to see if they need any assistance, if they're prepared, if they need to be connected with a JNF professional to make sure that they have everything that they need. Doing this will also minimize the opportunity for surprise agenda items to appear at your board meeting. We'll talk about that in just a little bit, about how that could how that's a good thing. Extra bonus points for anybody who knows anything about the names of the people listed in the parentheticals here, not just arbitrarily chosen. Maybe we'll do that at the discussion point. These are members of these are presidents of the original, from 1901, dating back to the world chairmen of KKL, starting with, I believe we started with Yonah Max, Nehemiah, Beryl, Mayer. Other than your agenda, we want to talk a little bit about logistics, and this comic possibly belabors the point here. But again, as we said, everything that you do is setting up the tone of your meeting, and the placement of your meeting is as important as everything else that you do. JNF meetings should not be held in a hotel room, as this comic seems to allude to, or a living room. The type of professionalism, the type of organized, respected fundraising institution that we are, needs to come forward in everything that we do. The JNF brand has to come through in everything that we do. So we do recommend that you utilize a traditional conference room for your gathering, for your board meeting. It is the appropriate venue for this type of meeting. And this is also an opportunity for you to engage members in different ways. You know, maybe some of your members work in an office that has a conference room that you can utilize, possibly an avenue for getting back in touch with a sponsor that you haven't touched base with in a while, a bank, a law firm, an accounting firm that they would like to offer up a room for your use. If you have new members in your community that are not yet engaged, this is a very low touch point, a low access point for them to support your organization. It's not a very big commitment to say, please, you know, welcome yourself. My office has a conference room available for you. So we do want to stress the importance of the location of your meeting as lending a tone to the professionalism of your board meeting. In addition to the setting, we also want to encourage you to use name tags or nameplates. This is, again, part of your hosting responsibilities, creating a community, creating a sense of welcome, of openness, so that nobody, whether they're a veteran or whether they're new, feels uncomfortable. This is a randomly selected tent card for your viewing pleasure. This is how you start to build the culture of your board meeting. This is how you invest in your team. I also want to encourage at this point that you encourage all of your board members to come to meetings in person. That is also part of investing in the culture of your team, and showing that you have prioritized this commitment that you've made to this organization. It provides board members an opportunity to connect and to meet on a personal level, which will definitely increase their engagement and maintain their interest throughout the meeting. And I recognize the irony of bringing this up as we are on a Zoom call ourselves here, and I do know that it is 2019, and that Zoom calls and teleconference can be very, very strategic and helpful when you need them. But I just to illustrate the point here, another few short seconds of a video here for your viewing pleasure.
Hey, Paul. Thanks for being here on time. Paul? Hey, Paul, can you hear me? I can't hear you. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Hey guys.
Hey, Tyler.
Sorry I'm late. Having a hard time connecting.
1 second. Paul's having a sound issue.
I can't hear you.
Try adjusting your output settings.
Can you hear me?
It's the gear icon.
Tyler, are you on hotel Wi-Fi?
Yeah, why?
So just to belabor the point here that, you don't want to get lost in the logistics of the technology, of the Wi-Fi, of the dial-in number. You really do want to encourage people to come in as much as possible so they can interact with one another. Should you need to set up a call, should any of your members not be able to make it, please know that we have Gary Buchwald here, our Director of Communication, who did help us start this call. And he's available to you if you need to make sure that one of your board members is ready and prepared to Zoom, participate, or call. He can make sure that that goes smoothly. I know that from very personal experience this week. So moving on to the actual running of your meeting, you have the opportunity with your agenda to package your board meeting. It is your run of show, so to speak, and having it appear in a consistent manner again goes to the professionalism, the uniformity, the predictability of your meeting, and the efficiency of your meeting. So we want to encourage you that your meetings should always be 1 hour and they should always begin on time. If you find that your community needs a little bit longer and that you guys can handle 90 minutes, then I can understand that. But we would like to stress that you choose either 60 minutes, 90 minutes, and stick to it. Again, this predictability is going to help you in the long run. And beginning on time is just a way to show respect to all of your board members who have taken the time to come and sit in on the meeting rather than do any of the other million things that people have going on in their lives. So we always want to show respect by beginning on time. If eating and catching up and schmoozing is part of the culture of your board meeting, that's wonderful. I would recommend possibly building in some time before your actual meeting begins so that everybody knows again that the first 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes is for eating and for catch up. But once the meeting is set to start, that is when we begin. It'll also give you a little bit of a buffer time for latecomers if they come in knowing that they have some time and not constantly interrupting your meeting. I want to encourage you, as we saw with the agenda before, to have timed agenda items. This lays out your expectation for people so that they know how to prepare if they're presenting, and it gives all of the observers and the attendees an idea of what to expect and how long certain things are going to be. I want to remind you that you have not just 1 or 2 people as part of your board, you have hopefully a much larger boards than that, and it's important to utilize all of the voices that you have. Please rotate your board members and who's speaking so that they can bring updates from the different areas that they're specializing in. This encourages participation, engagement from your new members, and also will quietly display to your board members the idea of step up and step down, that everybody should have an opportunity to be more vocal at times when other people should have the opportunity to be less vocal at times. Feel free on your agenda to use a parking lot. Items that you don't think need to be discussed at that specific meeting but that have been brought to your attention, you can put it in a parking lot on your agenda. This will indicate to those who have brought items to your attention that you have heard them, that this is something that deserves discussion or a presentation, but is just not correct for that moment. This is a way to validate somebody who maybe when you sent out your preliminary agenda wrote back saying, I'd like to talk about X, and you say, that's a really great point. I think we're better situated to talk about that in the next month's meeting, but I'll make a note of it on the agenda. I want to note that this shouldn't be used for avoidance of talking about certain things or avoiding certain discussions that may need to happen in your board. This is just for efficiency purposes. If you have a topic in your board meeting that is drawing a lot of heat, speaking about avoidance, if you have a lot of heat around a certain topic, heat is good. But if you find that you're avoiding it, talk to your professional, talk to us. Maybe we can dedicate our next webinar on how to hold on to a hot topic without getting burned. Heat is healthy, but we have to know how to respectfully at times pivot away from these items while addressing it at the same time. I want I want to stress the importance of action steps so that nobody leaves your board meeting thinking, you know, what did we accomplish here? We just heard people talk to each other, at each other. Make sure that you have concrete action steps at the end of your meeting. Name new people who have not yet been involved to speak at the next meeting, to prepare answers or follow-ups to ideas or questions that were raised. Closing each of your items on the agenda with an action gives people a sense of closure, ensures progress rather than leaving people wondering, you know, who was supposed to address that? Oh yeah, I remember we did talk about that a few meetings back. Whatever happened to that? This is another phrase that I'm taking from Priya Parker, who I previously mentioned. Don't be a chill host. There's a time and a place to be a chill host, but here in your board meeting, you are all part of a group steering a ship, and that means that you can be friendly and firm without being aggressive. You're keeping the group on task and you're moving forward. You can do this by again, as we talked about, by welcoming people, by not allowing people to straggle in and stand alone, by not letting discussion run away, by keeping to your timed agenda, by beginning on time and by finishing on time. People will appreciate it. And again, it is another way that you are showing respect to all of your board members. Also, I would remind everybody here to welcome questions, whether they're from new people or from veteran board members. Try to, when new people come in, try to think of any time that they might ask you, for example, why do we do this? Or why is this something that we have always done? Try to take it as an opportunity to hear it. Is there a better way to do this? Definitely don't take for granted new members who are coming in asking what seems like an obvious question to you. They're giving you the opportunity to give something a new and fresh look. Board meetings don't have to be these dry and boring events. Add your ritual. Let's not lose the human aspect and the human element of ultimately a gathering of people. We've taken the time, we've come together to do something. So add your ritual. You need not have it be a boring and unengaging experience. I want to, we'll come back to that in just a moment. Your ritual could be something like adding some photos and a quote at the bottom of your agenda, something that will just add a little pithiness. Bonus points to anyone who can tell me who's in the photo and who said this quote on the bottom of this sample agenda. Again, I will borrow from Priya Parker, who talks about ritual. You could do something like taking a group deep breath when you begin your meeting. I went to an event that she facilitated where she had 200 people in the room stand up and physically grind their feet into the floor, indicating to everybody that the nerves at the bottom of your feet actually send a very are a physical indication of how much information you're going to retain. Physically telling your body, I'm here, I'm present. Find a ritual that works for your community, that works for your board. We as Jewish people know how important rituals are to mark occasions, to give meaning, to add flavor to something that we do. So don't lose that in our paperwork and our standardized agenda items. I want to jump back here just for a moment. This is something that I borrowed from Rick, just on a model board of directors. That I want to offer for you. This is either what your board looks like or what your board is going to look like. Those are your only two options, by the way. This is what we'd like everyone's board to get to. Everybody has a role. Everybody has something to contribute. You've got committees. Don't forget about your committees. If somebody has presented something and you have questions and you have follow-up, send the work back to that committee. Make sure that they stay engaged. Continuing after your meeting with action steps and concrete next steps will leave people feeling that they are moving forward towards something. They won't leave the meeting feeling deflated. This will hopefully move into that sphere of inspiration that we were talking about. I want to take a moment. This is maybe a little bit different than others have seen. I think that going back to what we discussed about the beginning, the end, and the peak of your meeting, the end of your meeting should be an education piece. It should be something that's connected to the inspiration of why it is that we're doing what we're doing. Don't end with your logistics of when your next meeting is and any changes to the schedule. You should really end with something that will leave people, that will strike people. So I think that this is an excellent opportunity for education. Oftentimes, lay leaders, professionals have said that, again, going back to JNF's wonderful and vast amount of work, that they often don't feel equipped enough to speak in an intelligent way, in an informed way, about all the wonderful things that we're doing. Using education as the final step to your board meeting is a wonderful way. Select a board member who hasn't presented in a while, connect them to your JNF professional, and have them come up with a 5-minute piece on something that JNF is doing. From Alexander Muss High School all the way through the Zikim community, you literally have an alphabet list of projects that JNF is working on. And let your board member choose something that has meaning to them. Maybe something that they didn't even know that JNF is working on, because again, when this person presents in your meeting, presents a project that JNF is working on that so relates to their why and why they're involved in JNF, it will leave your group of board members inspired, motivated, and hearkening back to the why it is that we're doing what we're doing. I want to close with one point. Jonathan Haidt, a professor at NYU, wrote the book, The Happiness Hypothesis. And he talks about awe and transcendence in his book, and that role in people's personal happiness. So he says, something about the vastness and beauty of nature makes the self feel small and insignificant, and anything that shrinks the self creates an opportunity for spiritual experience. Now, I'm not saying that your board meetings should have a spiritual experience element to them, but the point here, and perhaps it is a stretch, when you take your board meeting and you finish it on a note of education, taking a project that we're doing in Israel, taking an event that just happened across the country at a JNF breakfast or some other event, you're linking your board meeting where you're sitting in your office room, wherever you are, you're linking it to a larger network of people, of events, of fundraisers who are mission driven towards the end goal here, which is to do the great work that we do in Israel. And I think that in that way, you're ensuring everybody to feel confident in JNF, to continue to want to be the ambassador of this brand, to go out to network on behalf of JNF, enabling them and your JNF professional to remain engaged in our fundraising goals here. And it won't leave your board bored at the end of the day. You'll leave them inspired and wanting to keep working. So I just wanted to end with that. So I'm going to stop sharing. And if there's any questions at this time, I'm happy to speak to them. If anyone wants to bring anything up, now would be a wonderful time. Gary, if you could help us with any of our muting.
Sure. Anybody can unmute themselves now if they're on Zoom in the lower left-hand corner. Just click on the microphone. If you're on the phone, *6 will unmute your line. And if you don't want to do it publicly, you can also chat. You can use the chat feature and submit a question.
This is Julia Sherry. I have a question about board meetings, keeping them riveting. I mean, I love Efrat's idea of always concluding at the end with something inspiring or educational. I just have found that in many board meetings I've attended, they seem to be a series of reports. And reports, I mean, really, a report is something you could share with email, but the problem is people don't read their reports, they don't read their emails. But how do you maintain the engagement and build community when you're on such a tight time frame and you don't want it to just be a series of reports? That's my question. What are some devices to keep it alive and meaningful? You're glad you went out, in Colorado's case, through a blizzard to get there. What is the reward? What are the techniques to keep it very, very worthwhile for you to have come into town for that meeting?
That's a great point. And before I take a stab at it, are there others who'd like to address it? Someone who has a very successful story to share, since we're here in a collaborative way? Feel free to cut me off. I will begin so that we don't have dead air. It's a wonderful question. Thank you so much for asking it, Julia. I think going back initially to the culture that you've created with your board will help inspire and draw people to come to your meeting, right? It is a community that you have invested in. You have built, you've done team building. People want to spend time with each other. You've added rituals that make people want to come back. I can think of a lot of family gatherings that we have for holidays that several family members have said, oh, I wish I didn't have to go, but they go and they love it. So building ritual into your meetings is definitely something that you should be thinking about. The education pieces you mentioned, I think, is something that leaves people inspired to motivate throughout. I think if you have your timed agenda and people are progressing and you're changing voices, people are staying engaged. Your report sharing, is there ever an opportunity for feedback from the group? Your report sharing, where are those reports coming from? Are there additional questions that come up that have to be kicked back to the committee? Points that need to be discussed to have them refined? Reports aren't often the final word. Sometimes you'll need a little bit more fleshing out to be done. Is that something that resonates with your meetings, or are they really prepared reports and there's really nothing else to be done with them?
Can I just add something here? Just something that we've done in Arizona is at our meetings, we've been zooming in and connecting with partners in Israel and having them make a presentation. And that's really added to and we've been trying to do it at every board meeting, and it's really added to the meetings. So to have them, they're in Israel, they're talking to us, and that's been pretty amazing. So that's something you may want to do. We also have tried, what we've been doing this last year was to allocate a task force, something to each board member that they needed to research and educate themselves on, and give them the opportunity to come and present to our board something about whether it's the Gaza envelope or one of the different task forces, so that they can be well educated and then they educate the board. So giving them that opportunity to present. So, and they really have to go and connect with a professional, whether it's one of our professionals, one of the professionals in New York, to find out and learn about this task force or area of expertise. And that's been something that's gotten people more engaged. And then another thing that we're just planning on doing is at the beginning of the year, to host something as a president at your home, not a board meeting, just a nice social gathering with your board members. So we have the opportunity to get together, talk to each other, get to know each other, make it completely social, and hopefully at that point ignite some kind of energy amongst your board members that people are going to want to come to the meeting and be excited to see each other. So I don't know, a few suggestions. Hopefully that's helpful.
Those are wonderful team building ideas that you gave. I'm sorry, could you tell us your name?
Oh, sorry. I'm Kim Kotzen. I am from Arizona.
Thank you, Kim. Kim, how did you go about getting partners from Israel involved in your board meeting? Was that with your JNF professional? Could you tell us about
It's been through our JNF professionals. They've been contacting different partners and having them present on the work they do. So it's been really, really good.
That's wonderful. Does anybody else want to share some of the great points from their meetings, how they keep their members engaged?
Hi, this is Anna Milstein from Central New Jersey. Something else we've done in our region, in addition to bringing partners, is bringing people from other JNF departments to educate our board about the different opportunities. So for example, we had someone come from the planned giving team, which was really excellent because a lot of people, even on our board, were not so familiar about the planned giving options, and we've had a lot of positive results from that. So if you can't get a partner, that's another great option.
Thank you, Anna. Anyone else that wants to share?
There's another idea actually formed in this question that was submitted on the chat. If something controversial comes up and there's a lot of passion, is it okay to deviate from the schedule? How would you handle that?
So that's a very good question. If something comes up and there's a lot of passion, I think that you're steering your meeting and you're politely noting that this is something that is gathering a lot of heat. And if you have the time to allot for it, I would ask that your participants wait until the end to make sure that you have addressed the items that were scheduled to be addressed. And then see that you have some time for it at the very end. If you do not, then I would, and it's something that is worth continuing the discussion, you can prioritize it on your next agenda. I wonder if this question is addressing a topic that keeps arising, or if it's something very new. Again, a lot of this is your instinct and your common sense and your knowledge of your community, but I think that you do need to continue to project the sense of predictability and continuity and professionalism in the way that you progress and follow your agenda, respecting ideas that are brought up, and just finding the appropriate time to address them is key.
And can I just interject with that, is that when we've had those things arise at our board meetings, we've often said, okay, are there people that want to just form a committee to discuss this further? And then we get volunteers, and then we schedule another meeting where we discuss that topic. And then at the next board meeting, we'll come back with the results from the meeting that we had. So people know that we're addressing this, we're not just going to let it go. So that's been effective, because then we're not wasting more time at the next board meeting continuing to discuss it. And not everyone at the meeting is really interested in that particular topic. So we've done that on numerous occasions, and that's been very effective. Another thing, Julia, addressing you is 2 years ago, we had a board president, and at every board meeting, he arrived and started the board meeting with a joke. And it became something we all looked forward to. We were all there waiting to see what Seymour's joke was going to be at the start of the board meeting. And it set a really good tone. We all started off the meeting with a good laugh, and nothing better than starting the morning at 7:30 with a good laugh. So and that's just, it was something that I know we all looked forward to, and it was like, okay, Seymour, what are you going to say today? So just something to set the tone.
Thank you, Kim. Julie, are those things working for you? She's going to unmute herself. There's a smile and she's nodding a lot, so I'm going to say that some of them are working for her. We're going to get some more feedback from her soon. Other questions that that people want to raise? Gary, are you seeing anything else on the chat that we might be missing?
No, that was it.
Okay.
And you're just about at 12:45, your target.
Okay, great. Thank you, everybody. We're going to pass it back to Bruce to close us out. I really appreciate you taking the time to sit in and to chat with us and for sharing ideas. Bruce will tell you about some of the upcoming ones that we have, upcoming webinars, and thank you very much.
Yeah, I'm noticing there might be a problem with the Zoom. I don't think they can unmute themselves. I'm not sure why.
I'm not having a problem.
Right.
I'm testing this. Kim,
But Bruce, I don't see Bruce unmuting himself, nor can I unmute him. I don't know why. That might be a glitch. Okay, I hope he covered everything in the introduction. Bruce, if you need to chat. Any other announcements or closing comments?
No, I thought it was great. Thank you very much.
I may be able to help out if Bruce is unable to join in. I can try and do the announcement that he was going to make. Possibly.
Yeah, he's pointing at you to go ahead.
Okay. All right, I will get the announcements. So before everybody goes, thank you for joining. I just want to remind everyone that the next Lay Leader Training Seminar is July 17th. We'll receive an update on JNF projects and partnerships. That will be direct from our CEO, Russell Robinson, and Vice President of Israel.
Can you hear me now?
Sorry?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we've got you now.
Okay. So you can go ahead, Efrat. I don't know what was going on. I apologize.
So the July 17th webinar is going to be brought to you by our CEO, Russell Robinson, and Vice President of Israel Relations, Ken Siegel. If you've not yet registered for the national conference, which is taking place this year in Washington, D.C., is from September 13th to the 15th. Please do so as soon as possible. You can do that on our website, on our homepage. Also, this year's Campaign Planning Summit will take place on Monday, September 16th, immediately following the conference. So please mark that on your calendar. We'll meet from 8:30 a.m. to 3 p.m. to give you plenty of time to get to the airport for your flights home. Those were the closing remarks that I had. Again, thank you once again. Thank you, Gary. Thank you, Bruce.
Thank you, Efrat.
We'll see you guys on July 17th.
Bye-bye now.
Thank you, Efrat.
Bye.